Okay. Rabbi Yosef Amar Afilu Darcham. He said Rabbi Yosef disagrees. He says no. Even if the other brothers went against his will and processed the raw material and made it into something else, he's still entitled to get the Bechor is entitled to get double from what they produced. How can he have an entitlement to that? It's not his. It's a new thing. They were coined. He's not entitled to it. So it doesn't mean that he's entitled to get the benefit. What it means to say is, it's really saying the same din, that if by processing the zaysim and the anava, they did damage to it, they ruined it. They tried to make oil and they tried to make grape juice, and instead they just messed it up and they had to be thrown out. We say in that case, they have to pay him for the value of the original grapes and the value of the original oil because they stole it from him, and therefore they're mechuyev to make up the original value. Whatever loss happened, the brother the Bechor who said he didn't want to do it, is not obligated to share in that loss. What did Rav Ukva Bachama state this? Which is really the same thing. Bechor Pasha, Sheniach Lenavian Anavim Ubatzram Zaysim Umas, Bechor and a regular brother, that the father left over them grapes and olives, and they harvested it. Bechor Noitel Pishnayim, the Bechor gets double in that. Like we said, that what you said is the issue is only where they didn't just harvest it, but they processed it and they made it new. But if it's still the same anovim and zaysim, then the Bechor still gets his pishnayim. But the Brisa continues. I'm sorry, Yehuda Mishmul says, "Afilu darcham," and this is the din, even if they pressed it to produce the oil. Right? The more of the same question we asked before. Darcham ikari invi hashtachama. It's not talking about to get the profit, but rather it's talking about that they're responsible to pay for the loss of value, which is exactly the same shakla title we just said. Amar Ravasi, Bechor shenoto chelik keposhet, a Bechor who showed up at the property at the Sada. He meets his brothers the day after the Petira, and he said, "You know what? Yeah, I'm almost tempted. It's not proper to use Yossi Halio as the example." Well, yeah. But I think they just announced that he's becoming the Yerush of the yeshiva. So it's like too on the nose to skip. But in any case, a Bechor that showed up at the field and he said, "Okay, let's divide up the field. We're 4 brothers. We each get a quarter." And the other brothers are saying it to themselves, "Look at this, and this dope. He forgot to ask. He's really supposed to get 2/5. He's supposed to get a double portion as a Bechor, and he didn't say it." So tomorrow, Vita, that Bechor has been Meichel, and he doesn't get his double portion. My Vita, what does that mean? The Papa says, okay, that Sada that he agreed to take a single portion, not a double portion. The Bechor has been Meichel, but that's it. Then when they come to divide the rest of it, he's still going to get his double portion. He says, no. Once he already was Meichel, his right, the Bechor was Meichel, his right on any portion of the Yerusha. He said, I am only taking a single portion. That means on the entire Yerusha, he's only going to get a single portion. He's not getting the double portion. Got it?
Yeah.
Why'd he do it?
Not what he did. I think you're a nice guy.
6 nechasim, one of the nechasim he let for all 5. Shahavim.
Sorry?
He had 6 fields, and he only took a single portion in one field. That should affect the other 5 fields.
Yeah. Because his intention was, I'm being a nice guy. I'm not looking. I was Michael on the whole thing.
It's a stretch. We're interpreting his actions. That's how On that field, I hear, maybe because once you split it, it's like a permanent split. So why should that affect?
Well, the Gemara's assumption is that we can interpret it to apply to all the fields, but the Gemara is going to question whether his mechila is going to work. It's not a question of what his intention is. The question is, does it actually work? The Papa Mishmei de Rava Amavita Ba'isa Sada. The Papa who said it only applies to that Sada. Now you're all saying, because you never assume that a person is being altruistic beyond what he did. You wouldn't think that a person is giving up something unless he's very explicit. That's not the Gemara's issue. The Gemara says it's only that Sada. Unlike the rest of the portions, the chelik of a bechar, or one might say that the chelik of bechar goes into his rishus right away. Normally, right, when there's a Yerusha, it remains in the state until there's a chalukah. And once there's a chalukah, it belongs to the individual brothers. But there is a machlekes, as we're going to see. Some say that's going to be Rapapi, the chelik, that the chelik of bechar is different. That it's already considered to be in the rishus of the bechar as soon as the father dies. And therefore, so therefore, he holds that's not the case. Rapapa doesn't hold of this, and therefore he says he was only meichel on that chaylik that they divided. That's all that the bechar has, that he could be meichel. What he made a mechila for the rest of the status is irrelevant because he doesn't have those status. You can't be meichel something that's not bali yada, right? There's no kinyan on davar shalom bala ilam. So you can't, just like you can't be kind of something, you can't bring it into you. You also can't divest yourself of it. You can't be willing to give it up. It's not yours. You can't give it up. So we can read. I'm reading the parentheses because it seems to make sense. That which is in his hands, he can be meichel. That which is not in his hands, he doesn't have the ability to be meichel. He disagrees. He says he's meichel everything. The bechar was meichel and all future Porsche divisions. He has the ability now when he was meichel on this portion. He was meichel on everything because he has that ability. Again, we're not questioning whether that's what he intends to do. One is assuming everyone agrees he intends to do so. Question is, can he effectuate that intention? They didn't say this directly, but we're able to deduce this from other statements of this. The Azul Zovan Nichse Didei with the Pashat. There was a Bechar who said, I'm the oldest brother. My father died. I'm going to go immediately before any chalukah was made, before any division. I'm going to sell off the properties. Also, Yasmi B'nei Pashat. And what happens to be his brother, in addition to his father dying, his brother, it must have been a car accident, his brother also died. The Pashat, the non-Bechar, also died. And his Yisraelim came and they wanted to collect some Lamechel Tamri. They came to eat some of the dates from the property of their grandfather that they believed their father was entitled to. Mehana Lekuchas. They came to eat from those Lekuchas that the Bechar had sold it to illegally. And Machanu, and the purchasers started beating up these kids, these Yisraelim. They're going straight to hell, I think. I mean, you have to be nice to Yisraelim, and they started beating them up, and they were wrong. They were legally wrong. They had no intent. They had no right to do so because the Bechar had sold it illegally. Armi lahu kroivim. The kroivim of the Yisraelim said, "Loi mistayid zaventu l'nechsayu." It's bad enough that you purchased something without any rights. You should have known you have to wait till there's a chalukah of the Yerusha, and then you could buy. So you bought something that wasn't the sellers to sell. The Bechar didn't have the right to sell it. They were entitled to their portion. Ela mincha nami michtu mechisu. You also beat them up. Also, they came to Rabba, said, "What's the din in this case?" This Bechar who sold it did nothing. One man, the Amar Rapapi, who we had said before, that the Bechar does have a right. He could be meichel from the beginning because he gets his chelek right away when the father dies. He doesn't have to wait for Chalukah. So he says he didn't sell the portion that's not his chelik b'char, but he did sell the portion. I'm sorry, he did sell the portion that is his chelik b'char, but he didn't sell the portion that the b'char gets as a regular brother. He only has this special din that starts to belong to him as soon as the mace died on the chelik b'char, and that's sold. But the other portion that he got, that this b'char got, is not sold. It's nothing to do with the previous story. The portion that went to the assignment was not sold, but they just had a disagreement about what was the final accounting. Was the Bachar's portion, was the Bachar himself sold his own portion? Was that effective? So he said the part that was a regular portion, again, there was no Chalukah, so he doesn't have the ability to sell it. But the Chelik Bachar has a special status that from the death, it automatically goes into his Rishus, and therefore he was able to sell it. Umar Savar Bekulu. The other one says, Klum goes on the whole thing, even the Chelik Bachar, he has no special rights to, and therefore he couldn't sell anything at all. Shachamitan. Bachar shemachar koidem chalukah le'asa klum. A bachar that sells before the chalukah didn't do anything. Alma ein lebachar koidem chalukah. That seems to say le'asa klum he did nothing. That nothing was sold. He doesn't have rishus, just like we just said, according to Rav Papa. The halacha is, however, yesh lebachar koidem chalukah. The halacha is really like Rav Papi, that he does have a right to the chelik b'char. Marzutra midarishba polag betzina de palpali bahadi achen b'shav. Rev Marzutra was a b'char, and when his father died, this Marzutra midarishba, he divided up some peppers that had fallen by Yerusha. They were, they got together in the Shiva house, and all the brothers were there. They said, "We need some lunch." They had some peppers in the fridge. And Bechar said, "Okay, let's divide up the peppers. This is going to start the Chalukah." And this Bechar wasn't, so he made a mistake. Or maybe better. He said, "You know what, well, let's divide it up evenly. I'm not taking an extra pepper because I'm the Bechar." Also, since the Bechar agreed not to take an extra pepper, it means the entire $2 billion estate with properties throughout the United States, everything the Bechar is giving up his, because he agreed to divide up the pizza by the Shiva. Now everything is divided equally. He doesn't get extra chelik Bechar.
So the regular portion he does have, it's the extra portion?
Yes, that's the whole question is whether he has rights to the chelik Bechar to be Meichelit, and the Gemara is concluding that he does. He has those rights from the beginning. So when he's chaylik, when the chaylik this pepper, this chaylik b'char is already in his rishus, and he's intending to be meichelit, so it's effective, and he's meichel the whole thing. It almost feels like the Gemara is like taking every possible inference to try to get the b'char out of his chaylik b'char. Zok the Mishnah, ha'omer ish ploni b'ni b'char lo yita. A man who says, "My son Reuven, I don't want him to get Layito Pishnai. He shouldn't get double." Or Ish Pliny B'ni Layir Shemachav, or he said, "My son Shimon shouldn't get even his regular chelik as a ben. I don't want him to be part of Yerusha." Layama Klum, he has done nothing. The Torah says that a Bechar gets double, and that every son gets a chelik. And you're saying, I don't want that to happen. And we all know that you could write a will, and there are ways to do this, right? But you have to. The will is not that you just write that I'm overriding the Torah. You have to use a krunya. There's a whole strategy of how you do it, and it's very controversial. It's been much discussed, and even up to, I remember my uncle Feivel wrote a pamphlet about how to overcome the Hilchas Yerusha, how to legally go around it, and I think less than a year after he put it out, he withdrew it because it was very controversial, and he made changes to it. It's up to this day, it's not so simple. It requires careful attention to be able to overcome, because you can't be Masna Masha Konceptor. You can't say, I want the Yerusha of my children just to be different than what the Torah says. You have to do what you do. You make a loan, and then you say that the loan will take effect unless they agree to give each other certain things.
But you could give it.
You can give prior to death, whatever you want, right? There's no what you call gift maximums per year like the IRS has. You give out whatever you want, like as we're going to see in the mission. If someone was, let's say, a shchimera, as he was on his deathbed where he doesn't have to make a kinyan, the same would hold true if he sat down and wrote a star giving a matana to his sons. If he wants to give more to one son, give less to another, or he gave the bechar the same as everyone else, that's fine. Like you just said, that's a matana before he dies, and that you can do whatever you want. Now, you always have this problem. I mean, people have this problem in secular also. They don't really want to give up before they die. It's not so comfortable when you're on your deathbed to sit and get a star or even get Adam and say, I'm giving out this and that and that. So that's where the difficulty lies. You want to do it in advance. You say, oh, I'm feeling fine, I'm going to give over my kids all my stuff. And then your kids go to buy an apartment in Israel and you're left on welfare because you don't have anything left.
You do more for that.
Well, I mean, there are ways to do it. Like I said, there are ways to do it.
Just tell you. That time.
We never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Most people want to be their wife to Yarsh, right? If a man dies, he doesn't want his wife to be left with nothing and his kids take everything and she has to go on welfare, just to go ask her kids for money. So normally, I mean, that's the way American law does. So anytime you're going to have a distinction between American law and your law, you're going to end up in court. I mean, it seems like a great portion of machlekes that exists in Klal Yisrael is about Yerushas. Like it breaks up families, kaseda. Girls, but also because of the differences between secular law, people will go to court to enforce their rights, and they say, I don't care what Bezin says. So, and it's very important to figure this out with a Rav.
Oh, sure.
You'd be surprised.
Happens in smaller states as well.
Yeah. Listen, I actually had this some of my background that happened basically to me that Yerusha was just taken, the executor of the estate just took it. What was that? Nothing anyone, unless you took him to court. He didn't follow the Yerusha. He didn't follow anything. Just took it. And it's a brother. The fight. Yeah. But this is all that a person can give a matana while he's alive. But if he says, I'm not making matana, this is the way I want the Yerush to be, like I'm a klum, like we said before, he's masna masha kasa b'tayra, that's ineffective. Kasa bein betchila bein be'eins bein b'soif mishum matana torah kiyam. This we're going to see later on. The Gemara is going to explain this. Is if someone made a Yerusha, but he wrote in the Yerusha, he wrote a star, and it says Yerusha, and it also says matana, then it works. We have to see where he said exactly matana. So tomorrow, leim masisin to like Rabbi Yehuda. Our Mishnah that says that masna masha kasa b'Torah is ineffective. If he tries to say that the Yerusha shouldn't go kafi what the Torah dictates, it doesn't work. That's not like Rabbi Yehuda. And this is Shreb, because usually you follow Rabbi Yehuda connected Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda ha'ama b'dava shamam and tnekayim. We had this not so long ago in Bava Basra that although masna masha kasa b'Torah is ineffective, that's only on hilchas iser. But on something that has to do with money, people could contract with themselves however they want. So it's not really masna masha kasa b'Torah. He's making new financial arrangements. So Rabbi Yehuda says you can be masna masha kasa b'Torah if it's purely a monetary question. The Tanya, the example of this is, I want to be Bakadosh you. I don't want you to have the derisidic obligations that I have to provide you with clothing and with food, Zionist, and with Aina, with Tashmish Amita. I'm going into this obligation free, and she agrees. Arezim Mukudeshes. She is Mukudeshes. Now we say that it doesn't work as far as the I know. As far as the Tashamita, he doesn't have the ability because that's Takamas and Mashakazi B'Torah. But Utanoi Batal, the Remei says that you just ignore everything he said, and the Kedushin works because he's Masna Mashakazi B'Torah. Yehuda, I'm Bedava Shalmam and Tnoi Kai. Yehuda disagrees. He says on the parts that are Mammon, the fact that he said I don't have to provide you with mezainis and with clothing, that his Tnai works. So Rabbi Yehuda Yisi says that even though we say Masa Mashakatas B'Torah is Tnai Batal, that's only on Issa. But on Mammon, he does have the ability to override a halacha. So no, I feel the same Rabbi Yehuda. Hasam Yada B'Kamach. Over there, that's different. Because over there, the woman agreed to this provision. So he was Masna Mashakasa B'Torah. He said, I'm being Mekadesh you, but I'm not going to give you the mezainis that you're entitled to. And she agreed to that. So in that case, it can be Masna Mashakasa B'Torah by mom. But over here, where the father said, I'm taking it away from one son and giving to another son, the sons had no choice in the matter. So there, you can't be Masna Mashakasa B'Torah. Okay. Let's try to get to the end of the block. Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Ish Pliny, B'ni B'Chayri Hu Noitel, Pishna. Amar Yosef, Amar Ish Pliny B'ni B'Chayri Hu said, this person is my son, and my B'char Noitel Pishnayim. Because his father said that he's B'char, he gets double. Ish Pliny B'Charu. He said this person is a B'char, but he didn't say he's my B'char. Ein Noitel Pishnayim. He doesn't get double. Even though he seems to be saying that it's his B'char. When it says no, Dilma Bukhra de'ima ka'amar. Maybe he said he's a B'char, and he knows, I know it's a B'char. It means that he's a B'char of the mother, and the B'char of the mother doesn't get double. We know, these Adam came and said that we know that this person is a B'char. How do you know? They said, because his father used to call him, you foolish B'char. He was a tough father. He used to call his father called him the foolish B'char. You see, but he's calling him B'char. The kid didn't care that he was called fool, as long as he was going to get his Pishnayim. But tomorrow, how do you know? Dilma B'char de'imahu. Just because the father called him a foolish B'char, maybe it means it's a foolish B'char of the mother, which doesn't entitle him to double. And the Gemara says it makes sense. It's generally people call it means like a B'char shaita. It means a B'char that's not regular. Sometimes people call the B'char of the mother, who's not the B'char of the father, like a little bit off. There's something off about the B'char, so they would call him a B'chara Sichla. So it's a good time. Said, I know this person's B'char. That's how do you know? When you go to his father, go to my son Shikchas, the Bukhrahu, that he's a B'char, Masi Rukya, and his saliva has the ability to heal people with eye afflictions. There was one of the ways of healing an eye affliction was with the saliva of a B'char. How could you prove it? Maybe it just meant it was the B'char of the Ima. How could you use this to apply to say that this B'char could get Pishnayim? Maybe it's the mother's B'char. No, can't fool around with this. The refu only helps with the father's paternal B'char, not a maternal B'char. Okay, we're going to leave Tumtum for tomorrow. Or for Matzah Shabbos.